Silverspoon vs. Breakfast by your Antagonist. The faint rays of the early morning sun peeked through the curtains of a certain filly's bedroom in Ponyville. Slowly but surely, the light crept along an inch at a time before finally illuminating and warming the curvatures of her blissfully exposed face. As it played across her eyelids, the sudden change in light became apparent to the lightly dozing filly, who began to stir and squirm beneath her sheets, in preparation to make the transition back to the waking world. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, she opened her eyes, taking her surroundings in one blurred shape at a time. Yet, even as her vision returned to its fullest extent, the shapes remained blurred and somewhat unrecognizable. This wasn't news to the filly, however. Reflexively, she reached out to the nightstand on her left and retrieved a pair of thick-rimmed baby blue glasses that she affixed to her face promptly after acquiring them. She heaved a held breath as the world around her came into immediate focus. With a yawn, she drowsily slid out of her bed, landing unceremoniously on all fours. She trotted over to a large vanity mirror just to the right of her bed and began assessing her appearance. Unruly bat mane, tear stains round her eyes from what her recent yawn, and chunk of hay and carrot from dinner the night before stuck in her teeth. Nothing a quick trip to the washroom couldn't fix. Just as she began to turn her attention away from the mirror, she noticed there was a note stuck on the upper left-hand corner of the looking-glass. Curious, the filly ripped the note down and began to read it through.
To our precious little silver spoon.
The silver-maned filly rolled her eyes as they scanned over the opening salutations.
Jeez, Mom and Dad. Really?
She wasn't a little filly anymore, yet her parents insisted on babying her at every turn. Shaking thought from her mind, she returned her attention to the letter and continued to read.
Mother and I have urgent business to attend to at Canterlot Silver Refining Plant. As such, we will be home late tonight, perhaps even tomorrow morning. We've left for you some bits for food on the kitchen counter, and a little extra just in case you wanted to invite Dime and Tiara over tonight. But we don't have enough time to cook anything for you, and there are no leftovers, so you're on your own for breakfast. You're a smart girl, though. I'm sure you'll figure something out. Love, Papa and Mama Spoon.
A slight smirk crawled across Silverspoon's lips as she mouthed the words,
I love you too.
in response to her parents' closing line. A weak growling from her stomach and a glance at her disheveled appearance in the mirror reminded the filly that she still had a routine to adhere to. Without any further hesitation, she dropped the note in a nearby wastebasket and retired to the washroom down the hall. Much to her surprise, she found that a bath had already been run for her. She trotted up to the tub and cautiously dipped a hoof in the waters to test the temperature. While it wasn't piping hot, there was still a pleasant sizzle to the water. Thinking nothing more of it, Silverspoon slowly immersed herself into the tub, allowing the soothing waters to cascade over her head and shoulders, rejuvenating and relaxing her muscles with each minute she spent in their depths. After what seemed like an eternity of bliss, she finally pulled the tub's plug. As the water drained out, the residual moisture caused a slight chill to flow through Silverspoon's exposed flesh. She reached for a nearby towel, and after drying herself off, passed by the sink and contemplated brushing her teeth. Another slight gurgle from her stomach swayed her opinion rather quickly.
Nah.
She said to no one in particular.
I'll do it after I eat breakfast. Toothpaste makes food taste weird anyway.
Her mind set, Silverspoon vacated the bathroom and was en route to the kitchen when she heard something unusual.
Oh yeah!
Silverspoon stopped where she stood and looked around, searching for the source of the sound. After finding nothing out of the ordinary, she shrugged and decided to press on.
Must have been the wind.
She mumbled.
I'm ready for this madness.
That was definitely not the wind. Silverspoon jumped and whipped her head around frantically in search of the voice. Yet again, she found nothing.
Hello? Is anybody there?
Silverspoon waited nervously for a response, but only silence answered her. She knew for a fact that she had heard that voice 2 times now, yet refused to respond to her. Cautious and on edge, Silverspoon resumed her walk to the kitchen, arriving only a moment later. Much to her relief, she heard not a peep from the voice during the trip, and sadly hoped that the source had left in that time period as well. Pushing the voice to the back of her mind, Silverspoon returned her attention to the matter at hoof, selecting a suitable source of nourishment. In theory, it seemed like a simple task, but Silverspoon herself lacked any real experience of intimate knowledge with her family's kitchen, as her parents had always prepared her meals or ordered out. She wasn't unfamiliar with the idea of leftovers in these instances, but as her parents had specifically stated in the letter, there were none. Silverspoon's attention wandered from cabinet to cabinet, drawer to drawer, and finally the refrigerator. Deciding to gamble on pure luck of the draw, Silverspoon opted to investigate a nearby cabinet. Upon opening said cabinet, Silverspoon was disappointed to find it was empty, save for bags of potato chips and water crackers. Shrugging off the less than satisfying find, Silverspoon chose to open another cabinet, which, unlike the last one, was filled with foodstuffs that required a bit of culinary prowess that the soul-mane filly sadly lacked. Cabinet after cabinet, drawer after drawer, Silverspoon searched until at long last she finally stumbled across a singular, colorfully decorated box, flamboyantly labeled Mighty Minotaurs. Needless to say, Silverspoon's curiosity was piqued. Standing on her tip hooves, the filly swatted relentlessly at the box until she found purchase on one of the corners and dragged it down. Silverspoon stood over the festive box and raised an eyebrow at what she saw. The box itself was yellow and littered with explosively colored buzzwords, framing out a masked minotaur in wrestling tights. Silverspoon's attention, however, was directed to the bottom of the box, which depicted an image of the proposed cereal served in milk.
Huh. I think I can make that,
she said, marveling over the simple preparation of the cereal.
Guess I won't have to miss breakfast after all.
She chuckled.
You hear that, Hunger? Silverspoon's hankering to heave a herd in at you.
Silverspoon jumped away from the box, shaking in fright as though it were possessed.
Okay, seriously. Who's there? Who is that?
Oh, yeah. It sounds like a furious little filly's getting all heated up, Hunger. I would want to be you right now.
Able to pinpoint the origin of the voice, Silverspoon backed away from the box and into the refrigerator door.
Please, just leave me alone. Take whatever you want. Just leave our house, please.
Silverspoon, you gotta get that bowl and take the milk in, brother.
But you... I'm a girl. Why are you doing this?
This ain't no time for that, brother. Just grab the milk out the fridge.
The voice roared back.
Oh, okay. If I do this, will you just leave me alone?
No response. Silverspoon hesitantly turned around and opened the fridge. She didn't have to look particularly hard to find the carton of milk on the lowest shelf, and scooped it out of the refrigerator without a second thought.
Nice taking, brother. Now bring it to the ring.
What ring. I don't have any rings. Please, I'm begging you. Just get out.
The bow, brother. You gotta use the bow to channel your spirit of the ring.
Silver Spoon sighed. Clearly this voice wasn't going to show itself just yet, but she didn't want to agitate it into doing so. With that in mind, she decided to follow along with the voice's demands for now. She trotted over to the sink and retrieved a clean bowl, which she placed the bowl on the counter along with the milk and the cereal box, which she was still exercising caution towards.
Okay, now what?
It is time, Silver Spoon. Open the box.
As the voice shouted those fateful words, the kitchen shook violently, Silver Spoon stumbling forward on shaky legs. Faced with no other alternatives, the shaking Billy peeled the flaps off the box away, allowing a radiant light to pour through, effectively blinding her as it flooded the kitchen with the light. Once the intense luminosity died down, Silver Spoon slowly opened her eyes and gasped at what was standing on her counter. Where the cereal box once stood, there was instead a minotaur, not unlike the one in the box, pouring the milk into the bowl, which was now overflowing with cereal. Silver Spoon stared at the massively monstrous minotaur in dazed confusion, her mouth hanging agape as though it were waiting for words to fill it. It didn't take long for her mind to find the appropriate interrogatives to load her maw with.
How'd you get in my house? Who are you? Why are you doing this to me?
It was at this moment that an urgently familiar voice grated through her ears like claws on a chalkboard.
Silver Spoon, Candy Ravage wants to ask you a question.
The Minotaur's commanding voice boomed. Silver Spoon stopped her quivering long enough to answer the Minotaur.
Yes?
She squeaked. The Minotaur, named Candy Ravage, leaped from the counter and stomped menacingly over to the frozen filly, who cowered in the shadow of his bulky biceps. The Minotaur flexed one of his massive forearms before bringing it down on Silver Spoon with violent force. Yet, he did not strike her. Instead, the Minotaur dropped the cereal at her hooves and crossed his arms in front of his chest, flexing them until his veins popped.
I'm ready to fight the hunger, brother.
I,
No, you're not.
The Minotaur shouted.
You know why?
No.
Silver Spoon squeaked in return.
Because you ain't got no spoon. And if you ain't got no spoon, you can't dig in, brother.
Okay, I'll just grab...
No need no spoon, watch this.
The Minotaur reached behind himself and produced a block of steel. He slammed the block repeatedly against the kitchen floor, until, through some miracle of physics and precision, he held up a crude and horribly bent level.
Here you go, kid.
The Minotaur tossed the mangled utensil into Silver Spoon's cereal. Silver Spoon looked at the ladle, then at her roofs, and looked back at the ladle again.
How am I even supposed to...
Silver Spoon looked up Candy Ravage, who was now preoccupied headbutting the ever-loving structural integrity of her refrigerator.
Never mind, I'll figure something out.
Wait a minute, little spoon. Candy Ravage, here's something.
Said Candy Ravage.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Asked Silver Spoon.
I don't hear anything.
Candy Ravage, no. It would only be a matter of time before you showed yourself the hunger.
Just as the Minotaur spoke those very words, a nearby wall in the kitchen exploded in a hail of shrapnel and dust. through the wreckage walked a griffin clad in a black overcoat with ridiculous gothic makeup smeared across his face that was concealed under the shade of a large fedora.
Who is that?
Silverspoon shrieked.
Did you bring him with you?
Calm down, little dipper. You just eat some cereal and let Candy Ravage take care of this.
You know what? I don't care if he came with you. Get out! Both of you get out of my house!
You hear that, Hunger? This little filly don't want you to be here no more. I suggest you listen to her if you know what's good for you.
I don't want you here either. Both of you get out!
The newcomer looked at Candy Ravage, then Silverspoon. Violet shook his head while drawing his thumb across his throat.
Ooh, Hunger. That was a bad move. You just pushed the go time button.
The Minotaur leaped into a nearby countertop, successfully cracking his smoothed out finish. He immediately ripped the torso off of his tights and pointed a massive lock of a finger at the griffin.
Candy Ravage is coming for you.
The Minotaur gave one final unnecessary flex of his impressive biceps before leaping off the countertop, with his elbow to the ground and his hooves to the sky. The Hunger cast his unimpressed gaze upon the incoming Minotaur's missile. Griffin took a step backwards, just as Candy Ravage's elbow impacted on the ground before him, scattering chunks of the kitchen floor in an explosion of dust and tile. Furious, Candy Ravage picked himself up, ready to reel an emboldened uppercut into the Hunger's exposed beak. He stood up, only to find himself staring directly into the Griffin's talons, balled up into a fist, packing dangerous momentum behind it. As the retaliatory strike connected with the Minotaur's forehead, his visions exploded in a sea of stars and darkness. Candy Ravage could feel the instant his hooves left the ground, and the gentle pull of gravity as he flew backwards before he hit the ground back first. In a dazed state, the black-eyed Minotaur's gaze wandered around the kitchen, searching for something to focus on as he regained his senses. His doubling vision fell on none other than the visage of Silverspoon, who was yelling something he couldn't quite make out. The Minotaur narrowed his eyes and tried to concentrate on what she was saying, despite the ringing in his ears.
Get up! Get up! Get up and never quit!
This message of inspiration and encouragement rang through Candy Ravage's ears, inspiring the Minotaur to struggle to a stand. However, Silverspoon's shouting was more akin to,
Get out! Get out! Get out and never come back!
Candy Ravage shook his head to clear his thoughts, and it was in that moment of clarity that he remembered the Hunger's weakness.
Little Dipper,
He shouted, turning and kneeling in front of Silverspoon.
Candy Ravage thanks you for the encouragement, but Candy Ravage needs you to help beat the Hunger. You think you're up for it, brother?
Beat him?
Silverspoon was flabbergasted at the insanity pouring forth from her unwanted ally.
How exactly am I going to do that? If you haven't noticed, he's like way bigger than me, and he just sent you flying across my kitchen, which you're going to pay for, by the way.
Let me tell you something, little Spoon. The Hunger is a mighty foe, but even if he has a weakness, do you know what that weakness is? What Candy Ravage is gonna tell you? A bronze spork.
The Minotaur flexed his bloated pectorals for no feasible reason. Silverspoon backed away from the odd Minotaur, ensuring to keep her cereal bowl close.
Okay, so what is it?
The Hunger's one and only weakness is a
Silverspoon recoiled in fear as Candy Ravage was lifted into the air and hurled into her family's oven by none other than the Hunger. The sullen-faced griffin then turned his attention to Silver Spoon, advancing menacingly. Silver Spoon scrambled away frantically, only to find that she had backed herself into a corner. She looked to the left, and she looked to the right. With much to the filly's dismay, there was nary an exit in sight. There was only the griffin, whose plumage spread wide in a display of dominance, blocking her every hope for egress, and the cereal bowl, the contents of which had certainly gone soggy by now. Silver Spoon didn't want to die, that much was certain. But more than that the filly didn't want to die hungry, choosing to accept the lesser of two evils. Silver Spoon clutched the awkward ladle with both hooves, dipped it into the bowl, and brought the utensil to her lips. She greedily sucked down the sucky, shapeless mess of corn syrup puffs that at once resembled bullheads and fists, chewed it twice, and gagged as she swallowed it. As she felt the lumps of cereal travel down her gullet and into her empty belly, something very, very odd began to occur. The hunger, for all of his menacing size and intimidation, seemed somehow smaller to Silver Spoon. Experimentally, she took another ladleful of the cereal into her mouth and watched the hunger carefully. Just as she had expected, he shrank, if only by an inch. Realizing what Candy Ravage had been trying to tell her earlier, Silver Spoon tossed the ladle to the ground and dove muzzle first into the cereal bowl. Manners be damned, she was going to live through this, milk-covered muzzle or not. Silver Spoon sucked and swallowed every kernel in the bowl, and sure enough, the hunger continued to shrink until it was the same size as Silver Spoon. Yet, despite Silver Spoon's discovery, she still found herself at disadvantage. She couldn't fight. Something told her she wouldn't have to. A large shadow began to loom over the pin-sized griffin. A familiar voice, followed by the sound of cracking knuckles, pierced through the tension.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Look at what we have here.
The griffin squawked like a chicken as a massive hand of Candy Ravage wrapped around its gullet.
I know just what to do with you.
The Minotaur tossed the tiny griffin in the air and caught the bird firmly around the waist with both forearms.
I'll wait for a ride of your lifetime. Watch closely, little spoon.
Whatever. Just do what you're going to do and get out of my house. Please, I'm begging you. Just leave.
You got it, little lady. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Candy Ravage slid his feet apart and straightened his back.
The Germain suplex.
As he snorted those words, a fire sparked in the Minotaur's eyes. Candy Ravage bent his knees into a squatting position before he rocketed backwards, arching his back like a rainbow. Just as his head was about to connect with the ground, the Minotaur threw his crossed arms back, forcing the griffin's head to hit first, effectively taking all the destructive momentum. Candy Ravage stood up and brushed his shoulders off before retrieving his unconscious victim by the tail.
Thanks for the assist, little spoon. And just remember,
The Minotaur reached into his tights and pulled out another box of mighty Minotaurs.
mighty minotaurs are part of a complete breakfast. Don't be a fool. Fight the hunger.
Silver Spoon gave the Minotaur a look as if he had a unicorn's horn growing out his forehead.
Will you just get out of my house?
No problem, kiddo. Candy Ravage's work is done here.
The Minotaur turned and stomped out of Silver Spoon's kitchen, and hopefully out of her life. Silver Spoon took a look around her kitchen and contemplated how she was ever going to tell her parents what had happened. It's not like they were going to believe that a pro-wrestling Minotaur broke into her house to promote a terrible cereal. With a sigh, the filly poured herself another bowl of mighty Minotaurs, but almost broke down in tears as she reached for the milk carton.
It's empty.
It was going to be a very long morning. A few hours later, Silver Spoon had managed to push the catastrophic events from her breakfast to the back of her mind, and decided to curl up on the couch of the family room with a Technicolor television tuned to her favorite show, My Average-Sized Human. She was going to be grounded regardless of what she told her parents, thus she decided to make use of whatever free time she had left. A slight gurgling in her stomach reminded her that it had been hours since her last meal.
What should I have for lunch?
The villain mused as she hopped off the couch and tried towards the kitchen.
I guess I'll have a broccoli, lettuce, tomato sandwich, and some of those potato chips.
She said to no one in particular as she flitted about the kitchen and prepared her food, thankfully undistracted. Satisfied with her lunch, Silver Spoon set the plate down on the cracked counter and admired her work for a moment.
Not bad for someone who can't cook, but it's missing something. Ah, that's it.
Silver Spoon turned to the dented refrigerator, opened it, and began searching the shelves, but was quickly disappointed to find that her search yielded no results.
We're out of juice and soda? Oh no.
At that moment, a nearby wall exploded and the most unwelcome houseguest of all introduced himself, with a booming voice as he stepped through the wrecked kitchen.
Oh